what WoW 11.0 actually is? An elemental expansion? Well, let's see what this is all about. All right, elemental expansion. We've been seeing dwarf hints and all kinds of stuff like that. Maybe we're going... Thrall is on the cover of BlizzCon art, so maybe this is elemental. Let's see what Mercilene has to say.
World of Warcraft Awakened, Stormbreak, Beyond the Storm, and any other leaked name for the expansion for WoW were all part of a heated speculation over the past months. We have proper Blizzard leaks, we have fake leaks, some common sense, and some data mining and hints. Let's finally put it all together and see what WoW 11.0 actually is. First off, there will be no pirate expansion, as confirmed by Mike Ibarra, the Blizzard
missed opportunity, man. I would have been down for a pirate expansion. Come on. Sam's the kind of guy who goes to a restaurant and gets excited about the garnish on the plate. Yeah. If I wanted to just eat some damn chicken strips, I could have had that shit at home. If I'm going to a restaurant, I want a little bit of sizzle. Sizzle to my chicken strips. You know what I'm saying? Shit, I'm paying for it. Yeah, the pirate expansion I think could have been great. I do. I got excited for it. I'm not going to lie. The whole fantasy of building a ship and sailing this open seas and no loading screens and everything, I kind of did get hyped for it. Yeah, a little bit sad when it didn't happen.
President in a tweet, and I know a lot of us creators, us included,
yeah,
really went all in on the idea of a pirate expansion, but alas, it was squashed after this tweet.
I guess you could say BFA was the pirate expansion, but it wasn't enough of the pirateness that I would have liked to see. It is what it is.
It isn't to say we won't encounter pirates or have some sort of sailing towards the new continent speculated to be part of the new...
If we do end up getting, because Blizzard dropped those photos today, if we do end up getting some kind of time travel expansion, I'm going to be fucking... I'm not going to lie, guys. I'm going to be disappointed. I am. I would have said they would have been better off doing a pirate expansion.
Because we have, after all, the tome called Return of the Night Squall, which clearly points to the tale of Captain Night Squall, a night elf pirate who discovered Pandaria before the Alliance and the Horde and made a fortune from selling kegs of brew, living his whole life sailing.
Now, he discovered Pandaria, right? This guy in the Night Squall, he discovered Pandaria, and he also discovered some new continent on the other side of the world. Interesting stuff is that we recently saw there's a bunch of new revamping going on in Pandaria, a bunch of repairs, new shit being added. Why are they doing that stuff? Clearly, it's connected to the Night Squall who discovered Pandaria and now discovered a new continent. But the thing is it part of this next expansion, or are they setting up the one to follow it? I don't know. Sometimes Blizzard drops those little breadcrumbs and they let it sit for 2 years. So we'll find out.
And discovering new land.
But what if it's a time traveling
to sail west beyond the big storm, and as legend would have it, so much time passed since he left that people thought he was dead.
Could be going
the
tome
back to actually says that he has returned safe and sound with his ships carrying amazing treasures like never seen before. Having a new prize in mind, he wants to build the biggest pirate fleet the world has ever seen and go back to claim it. Maybe we will, after all, have some pirate action going, at least in the beginning of the expansion. Second, the leak and later data mined achievements and promotions pointed to a very similar wording from previous expansions' pre-purchase titles. Heroic Edition Algarian Stormrider hints at a mount from what we can safely assume is Khazalgar, a location that is mentioned in Dragonflight's Uldaman dungeon. In the Titan Watcher's Melania's text called Observational Report Earthen, Khazalgar is mentioned as a location of a subspecies of Earthen and that were affected by the Curse of Flesh, but had different evolutions from the dwarves while retaining many similarities. These Earthen showed more resistance to the curse, but evolved in a very similar way to the dwarves.
I think they're setting up a revamp for later
on. They had no connection whatsoever, as they were separated by time and a very large distance. This right here could point to the location of Khazalgar being on the other side of Azeroth.
Now, this guy didn't give... The pirate expansion leaks started to come out like little by little, and then there was that AI that decided, like, told us what the next expansion was going to be, and it also predicted a pirate expansion with all the other stuff that I mentioned in that one YouTube video. That YouTube video is now a couple months old that I posted, and I got so excited when we talked about that stuff because I really thought a pirate expansion would be so lit. It would take you back to the old lands and then have you sailing around. But you know, we get Merciline's good. He usually has good stuff. He definitely had a pirate expansion video as well, and it was pretty good too.
Now, in case you didn't know, the dwarves we know today emerged as formerly Titan-forged earthen who were affected by Yogg-Saron's curse of flesh,
the dwarves,
transforming
the humans,
them in time from
the
stony
gnomes,
machines to actual flesh and bone
all
beings
curse of
with
flesh.
consciousness and free will and all of that. One point to make here is that within the text, we also know that Khazalgar, or Sector AR-938, is placed within a fissure on Azeroth, indicating maybe an underground place, a crack in the ground, a big cut in the ground. Sound familiar? We'll get to this bit later on. Now, the mount name being the Algarian Stormrider directly points to this different race of dwarves from Khazalgar, Khaz meaning city or town in the dwarven language, and Algar being the actual name of the place. Algar. Algarian? Yeah. Now, being a Stormrider draws further connection to the dwarves we know, especially the Wildhammer clan, who were closely connected with elemental forces.
I'll be honest, the Wildhammer clan is a badass subsect of dwarves. They really are. Like, just the whole fantasy of riding a griffin with your fucking Thor hammer and lightning and all that. They're really cool. I like that. And I'm not like a guy who's ever made dwarves or played as a dwarf, but I always respected like their grittiness, the kind of like the, you know, obviously we think of Gimli, you know, just swinging your axe around and taking heads off, even though people underestimate you, but you're just like this compact ball of muscle swinging your weapon around. I think they're very cool. And yes, they are more in touch with the elements than most other dwarves. Obviously, you can make dwarf shamans and stuff like that. But of all of them, I would say elemental-wise, because of their contact with the lightning and everything like else, they are pretty elemental in terms of what, as far as dwarves go. So that does fit this theory.
Furthermore, a Storm Rider, from what we know, is a Storm Dragon that can be found in the Bastion of Twilight Dungeon. There are also some elemental mobs
also
in the Storm Peaks area, which are also called
Storm
Riders, so there isn't anything canon necessarily for them, but we do know dwarves love to ride griffins. And, interestingly enough, back in July, Mr. GM discovered that old griffin models had been updated with dynamic flying, basically enabling these mounts to do all of the stuff our dragons are currently doing in the game. While not available now, it's important to note that the system is already in place for the griffins. This also ties in with what looks to be new dragon riding race achievements from the Blizzard League: Storm Rider, Bronze, Silver, and Gold. I'm not saying these will be griffins. They could, by all means, be storm dragons, as this different race of earthern shares similarities with dwarves, so they are not 100% the same. But if they do make their living in caves or caverns or anything underground, it doesn't really make sense for them to have storm dragons, who thematically would better fit somewhere where a storm could hit. Outside, you know? Now, for the third batch of information, there are Dwarven cosmetics data mined as well. There is the Crown Splitter,
what a great
will
name.
Be available on the trading post sometime in the future.
What a
but
great
there are
name.
also some account-bound appearances like the Wildhammer Scouts headgear and the Regal Griffin Riders headgear. On top of the Storm Rider Storm Hammers, which have been data mined as text, no models are available yet, and we don't have any flavor text to mention the sources of these hammers. These are all heavily Dwarven inspired, and although we couldn't really expect an entire expansion based only on dwarves, they will surely play a big part in things to come. In theme with dwarves and fishers on Azeroth, we have the now deleted tweet and video from Towley, who mentioned a place more underground, more cavey, as opposed to what people were speculating about.
Those tweets got deleted. We talked about those
and stuff. Since the tweet got deleted, we cannot check his exact words, but funny enough, he later tweeted pictures of a rock and a scarab with no context to them. Caves, once again, Silithid, big sword in Silithus having to do anything
also
with this,
we know
now,
that
if you don't know,
we know that a lot of these like beetle, there was also the beetle looking shields, right, with the big beetle crests on them, like these things, all these hints at like, you know, the what's it called, all the beetle bugs and all that shit. Those are relevant. There's been a lot of tweets about that stuff. So I've been saying like bugs and dwarves. Yeah, I joke about it, but that's really where the hints are going for the next expansion.
Tully has lots of connections at Blizzard, and he did hint at previous expansions multiple times
Azul
before.
Narub, like that kind of shit. Maybe we go back there.
Always kind of proven right, so the fact that he deleted his original tweet and video on the next expansion makes you wonder if he gave away too much and was asked to remove those, or people would get in trouble. As much as we would be giga disappointed if the new expansion would start somewhere underground because Zarala Caverns got old really fast, it would make sense for some sort of cave, cavern, or in-mountain type zone for a Dwarven-like race to be placed. In line with Tali's sweet with pictures of a rock and a scarab. Later on, WoW had data mined some new scarab mounts and scarab shields that will be coming to the trading post sometime in the future. Again, thinking of Silitus, the big sword, something Ankiraj. Remember that Khazalgar is located where a fissure occurred? The Sword of Sargeras created just that, and I'm kind of speculating here that if they find a way to have the sword removed, they could see some events occur there that would eventually lead to an expansion on what happened in Khazalgar.
The Void will definitely play a role going forward in the next expansion. It's just a matter of how much we're going to see Void action going on, because we already know Xalatas and Galakron, they're doing their thing. Or sorry, not Galakron, Iridikron, they're doing their thing with the Void. So we know they're playing in the background doing shit, and the Void is going to be relevant. It's just a matter of how relevant and how voidy the expansion becomes.
And why those Earthen have shown more resistance to the Curse of Flesh and developed different than the ones on our side of Azeroth. Last point to make here is Chris Metzen. We made a whole video about what fuels his creative drive, and dwarves do seem to fit a lot better with whatever narrative vision he could potentially have for the next expansion. Now, him being officially executive creative director for Warcraft does imply that the narrative control is full in his grasp, and knowing him and his previous work, plus Thrall key art for BlizzCon 2023, it's quite clear that elemental stuff, stormy stuff, more rough, rugged, and raw stuff like badass dwarves are 100% in his line of creativity. I mean, damn, for how many expansions did Thrall fiddle with the elements? He also mentioned a while back that he always regretted never getting the chance to make a proper story arc for the dwarves, and by no means does this imply that the whole expansion would be about them, but I think it's fair to say at this point that dwarves, or at least these new almost corrupted by the Curse of the Flesh Earthen, will play a big part in the new expansion. So what WoW 11.0 actually is, if we put all of these together? We have the Algarian Stormrider, implying Khazalgar and the weird dwarfs, plus the fact that we know the access to the other side of Azeroth is basically unreachable due to a mysterious big storm that no one can go through, at least not now.
An island
Storm Riders the way through that? They are called Storm Riders after all. We also have the plentitude of dwarven themed cosmetics coming, the hints from Towley regarding caves, rocks, scarabs. We have the data mined scarab mounts and scarab shields, and Chris Metzen being at the helm of the narratives. And let's not forget Iridikron, who is quite the earthy dragon. So another element, leaving off into a void portal at the end of the Dawn of the Infinite dungeon. At the very least, all signs point to an elemental type expansion.
Look, and when you think about, like, people didn't like the Dragonflight storyline, what is the most opposite of the current storyline we have? Right now we have, you know, these tall, skinny, elegant dragons, you know, prancing around and talking about how they're going to be friends and everything. What's the most opposite to that? A short, stubby, hairy, muscular dwarf who's probably drunk and fighting with his uncle. You know, like, that is the most opposite direction you can go, and one is much more Warcraft than the other. And I would say it's the dwarf boy. The dwarfy boy is much more Warcraft, and that's what people have been missing. So I feel like going that direction, like some people were like, oh, I don't want a dwarf expansion. Dude, that's Warcraft right there. That's going to bring us back to the, you know, the hairy, sweaty days. So I think I'm totally, they literally showed a weapon called the Crown Splitter. I mean, come on, man. That is badass. That's what I want to see.
Because of all of the storm and earth tidbits with heavy implications from dwarves and the new subspecies of dwarves. A new continent where Khazalgar is located, possibly Avalorn,
I hope they let him
even
cook too.
Some resolution for Sargeras' sword, which could tie in with the scarabs, the Silithids, and going back to the point I was making earlier. We finally get to see the effects of the sword and correlate that with a higher resistance to a curse originated by the old gods, helping us further understand how to deal with a possible void/old god threat. And all these could probably be at the beginning of the expansion, as from 11.1 we would start to see a bigger arc regarding Iridikron and the Void, which in all fairness kind of has me worried, but hey, if they manage to make it feel like Warcraft again, fuck it, I'm all in. And who can make it feel like Warcraft again? Chris Metzen, baby. Check this video out to see exactly how Chris Metzen can take us back to what we originally fell in love with and why so many of us have hope again.
Yeah, great video. I totally agree with this stuff, and I would be shocked if there's not dwarf involvement in the next expansion. I might not sub to him. Yeah, there's gonna be dwarf involvement. There's gonna be bug involvement. I think those things are true. Even these leaked photos that people were showing at BlizzCon today, where, you know, Blizzard tweeted this stuff out. I don't think this is necessarily dwarf related. I think this is more, you know, finishing of Dragonflight related stuff. But this rocky shit right here, very dwarfy. You never know what this could actually become. We'll have to see. Wait and see and find out. BlizzCon next weekend.